Hi there, it is Jo from Minerva, and today we are starting a new series, a Fabric Masterclass, which is linked to our fabric guide, where we take a look at the most popular fabrics that Minerva sell, the base cloths. There are 70 of them, and we're going to take you through some of the sewing tips and techniques and things to consider if you would like to choose that fabric or you've never chosen it before and you want to see how to sew with it. The fabric guide is a really useful resource for online, especially if you online shop, but it's just a great knowledge book anyway. It's a book exclusive to Minerva. In the book, we give you lots of knowledge about different types of fabrics and how they behave. There's some information about different fabric types, so the fibres that make up the fabric, because that will determine the characteristic of the fabric and what you might make with it. And then the best part for me is the next chapter, which is an alphabetical order list of the 70 different base cloths, the most popular ones on our website. There are more, but some information about each fibre type. And brilliantly, each book comes with its own fabric sample. So you'll get a pack of 70 different fabrics and you stick them in, a little bit like a sticker book, and you get to read about the fabric and you get to have a feel of it so that you can go and explore this fabric further. Today we're going to be looking at activewear. So this bit is in alphabetical order, so we'll start with A, and I'll show you a little bit more about the book later. Today's focus is activewear, and you can see that it has a really high rating of difficulty because it's stretchy, it's slippy, it's tricky to handle. You'll need some different techniques on your sewing machine. But when you use today's techniques, you'll be able to create sportswear, swimwear and dancewear, or you might use it to line something. And in the book, it will give you some characteristics of the fabric, some details about how to wash it, give you some suggestions about what you can make with it. And I'm going to show you the needle to use and a few sewing tips. There's a few there, but I'm going to enhance those today. Of course, you get the little sample that I talked about, so you can check the weight of that, so you can compare that to another fabric. It will also give you the fabric contents, so if you want to use this one, you could find it directly, or you could use that to compare against the description of another lycra on our website. Activewear can be a tricky fabric to sew because it's slippy and has a really smooth texture, and it's difficult to see the right side and the wrong side, but I'll give you a few clues when we take a little bit of a closer look. You can get different types, so you can get four-way stretch ones, you can get glitter effect ones, ones with a foil in them, so maybe a print on top. Today I'm using the base one from our website. It's the four-way stretch lycra because it's ideal for sportswear, swimwear, dancewear, leotards, all of that kind of thing. It's really useful for cosplay too. Let's go over to the cutting table because today I am finishing off a project that I'm halfway through. So I'm making a early teens bikini. So I've made the bikini top and now I've just got the bottoms left to make, and I'm going to make it in this stretch lycra. I'm going to show you some of the techniques: applying elastic, making little ties, and making sure that I cut my pattern on the correct stretch. The pattern that I use and the fabrics and any tools will all be listed below, so if you want to go and check those out afterwards, you can use the links in the little description below the video. I'm going to be making these bottoms here. This is the Jarly GG bikini pattern. I've got quite a small size, so don't be alarmed. This is for a child size because Jarly patterns go right from children through to adults, but it's just easy with a smaller one because you can see it all in the screen. So I have traced off the size that I want, and now I'm going to place it onto the fabric. The fabric in this case is a four-way stretch, but you might have one that has a bigger stretch in the width. This one's got quite a big stretch in the width, so this goes from selvage to selvage, and I want that to go across the body. So I can place on my pattern piece, and there's a couple of things you can try. So you can either use pattern weights and cut out with your rotary cutter, or if you feel like you have more control with scissors, then you can pin your pattern pieces on, but you need to be pinning them really close to the edge of the paper so that you're not damaging the lycra in the fabric. You'll get little holes and you don't want to get snags or pulls. So these are lace pins, they're really fine, and finer pins go through the lycra better. If you use a thick pin, then sometimes it just bounces back and you can't be so accurate. This piece is on the fold and I'm going to cut out with my rotary cutter. This one's quite a small rotary cutter, which makes it really useful for going around tighter corners. Because it's stretching, you'll find that the fabric will sort of make a wave, so you need to keep doing it in small sections and releasing the stretch of the fabric. Don't pull this away too quickly because you might have a few of the little elastane fibres that just need a second cut, so be really gentle because you don't want to stretch it out of shape or move your pattern piece. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of these bikini bottom pieces and then we can take a look at sewing it. I'm all cut out, so let's have a look at sewing up a few little samples before I sew my actual bikini bottoms. There's a few choices that you can make when you sew lycra. So you can use a straight stitch on your machine, or you can use a zigzag stitch. If you want to use a straight stitch, then you need to use a Maraflex thread, which is a thread with a little bit of tension and stretch. It's new on the market, but it's really great. It gives really good results and it keeps your seam line stretchy. You need to put Maraflex in the top and the bottom so that both of those fabrics have the same tension pulling against them. I'm just going to use a regular thread first to show you a zigzag. I'll rethread up, then I'll show you the Maraflex thread. You'll be needing a stretch needle to sew lycra. The position of the eye is just a little bit higher up, so the point goes through the fabric first and then the wider part of the needle has a little bit more time to find its way through the lycra. You might need to test that out on your machine. I've got size 75 through to 90 there, so a lighter one would be best. So the lower the number, the finer the needle. So this is a 75 stretch needle. You can use this stretch needle in combination with a regular polyester thread or using the Maraflex thread. The right side of the fabric is slightly shinier than the wrong side, so the wrong side's a bit more matte. They're both quite shiny, so you just need to pay a little bit of attention to that. I'm going to put my fabric right sides together, and you want to be pinning within the seam allowance. So if you use a lace pin, they're a little bit finer and a little bit sharper, and you can pin in the seam allowance. So you probably won't be pinning your lycra this way because you'll be just puncturing here and you might be just making a little pull in the lycra, and if you have something like swimwear, that'll be where you get the little white bits of lycra that start popping through over time. Some people use clips. The only thing I find with clips on a lighter fabric like this is it becomes really sort of unwieldy and they weigh the fabric down into positions I don't want them in. So I prefer to either just hold my fabric and pin either end or pin in the seam allowance. I'm using a black thread so you can see it. I'm going to use a zigzag stitch because I've got my normal thread in. I want a really narrow stitch and I want it to be 2.5 in length. This will create a very shallow zigzag that just looks like a slightly wobbly stitch. When you're sewing, you've got to try not to pull on the fabric either here or here. You've just got to let the feed dogs do their work. And you might have noticed I didn't do a back tack at the end because that chews the fabric down into the throat plate. So I'm going to tie the end off. And when I peel the seam open, I am just seeing the little black threads, but that's because I've got a black colour in. But if I had a red thread, you can see that's a really strong seam. On the reverse, the seam will just lie open. You don't need to finish the edge of lycra fabric. It doesn't fray. But if you want to stop it rubbing on the inside for any reason, then you can overlock the edges together. Or you can top stitch the edges down, especially in places where you'll be putting quite a bit of strain on something, so maybe on the side seam where you take something on and off. Here you can make the stitch a little bit longer. The seam stays stretchy, but you've just given yourself a little bit more strength with 2 layers. Again, I've got black there, but if you had a red line, you would have just strengthened that seam. You might also be strengthening a seam with a 3-step zigzag, and I'll show you that afterwards. So in this instance, I've used the 3-step zigzag to keep the fabric stretchy and make sure that all the layers on the gusset are lying flat so that they're comfortable. And then from the right side, it's strengthened the seam as well where you will be sitting. So it might be that you choose a 3-step zigzag stitch for particular areas of your sewing. It's sometimes good for the side seams where you're going to be taking this item on and off and putting this bit under stress. This time I've threaded up with a Maraflex thread, and on those bobbins I just mark them with some little lines, some spokes, to tell me that that one's threaded up with Maraflex. So all my Maraflex thread bobbins have got little Sharpie marking on them so that I can know which they are. And Maraflex thread is on a yellow Gutterman spool. I've got black and white in so that you can see it more clearly. This time I'm on a straight stitch. I'm just going to move in from the end. I don't want to chew the end in, so I'm just starting a little bit more on the fabric than I normally would. I'm not going to back tack, but I am going to start with the needle down, and I might even just do a couple of hand wheel turns just to get my fabric up onto the feed dogs. So this is a straight seam, and it's actually more stretchy than the zigzag. You can put that under a little bit more stress, so you probably won't need to do the layer of flat felling like I did before, faux flat felling. You don't really press lycra, it won't take that kind of heat, and anyway, because most things you make are going to be negative ease, they will be stretched to fit your body. Another thing you might consider if you've got pieces of lycra and you're really trying hard not to let it stretch is to put a book or some books around your machine, or if you've got an extension table, put that on. If you've got a drop table machine, then you'll have a lovely flat surface, but if you've got it hanging over the side of your machine bottom, then sometimes it can stretch, and then the slippiness of the fabric will really enhance the problems of having 2 slippy layers next to each other. Part of the difficulty rating of working with activewear is that you just need to do everything a little bit more slowly and a little bit more delicately. If you're using the overlock to put your pieces together as well as close off the edges so they don't rub, you can use a Ceraflock thread. Ceraflock is a really, really light thread. It's almost a little bit woolly, but it is nylon. Let me get you a bit in focus. And it's really fine and light as a feather. But because it's nylon, it doesn't deteriorate in chlorine or with regular washing. And it creates a really smooth, fine overlocked edge, so it doesn't create any bulk. You could put 4 of those on your overlocker so they can do the overlock threads. This thread is strong enough for the needles as well. It looks like this. So it's really smooth. I can't describe it other than that it's smooth. It's not as bulky as regular sewing threads. It's good if you've got lots of layers. So on the bikini top, I've got a power mesh as the lining, the outer lycra, and all these layers are joined together with Ceraflock thread. I've got a regular thread on at the moment just because I want to show you the settings. I haven't got my Ceraflock all threaded up at the moment, but it's a product you can try. I'll list it below. And if you're sewing your swimming item on the overlocker alone, then you will need to use any guide that you have to make sure that you have the correct seam allowance, otherwise your item won't fit afterwards. It's always good to test your overlock stitch. I can see that my lower looper is too loose, so I'm just going to make that a little bit tighter because this part of the stitch has rolled from the back to the front, so it's pulling it over. I could go a little bit tighter on here too. And if you're getting lots of scrunching and rippling like this, then you might need to check your diff feed. A bit more than diff feed 1, but you'll need to practice this. I'm on stitch length 3 and stitch width 5. So this is my first attempt. The lower looper is coming over and bunching up all of the front. I've tightened the lower looper to get it back onto the reverse, and I changed it to just over diff feed 1 so it's not scrunching and bunching it up. I made my left and right tensions a little bit tighter so they're just above 4, nearer to 5, and it's much better. If you want to explore using your overlocker more on while you're at your test stage, then you can also try a flat lock. And when you do flat locking, you'll see a sort of ladder stitch from the right side. It's in episode 3 of my overlocker series if you want to give that a try out before you start your project. If you're lining swimwear fabric, because you either need a little bit more strength, you're making a bra support area, a bust support area, and you want your fabric to have double layers, then you'll need a lining fabric. And this is a mesh. It's really stretchy. You can see the holes. It's exactly what you get on the inside of swimwear, and it's really good if you've got a pale coloured lycra and you want a little bit of body coverage behind the back of your lycra. Following your pattern instructions, you'll find out how to put it on, but sometimes it's best to attach it like I've just done there so that this piece now acts as one layer, or you might be asked to put it on in a particular way where all of the raw edges are enclosed. But in this case, this will be part of the leg elastic application. It's not a hard and fast rule, but you'll more likely be adding elastic to activewear. So if you're putting a band underneath a yoga top or an elastic in the waist, then I'll show you how to apply elastics in a few different ways in the next part. I'm using a chlorine resistant elastic. This one's quite a wide one, but that's the style the wearer wants. And I've measured it, but I've got a little bit of handling elastic left at the end because I don't want to run short when I get to the side seam. I don't pin my elastic on. I find the midway point, and I find the midway point on the bikini by folding it in half, and then with the wrong side facing, going to pin the elastic at the beginning and at the end and at the midway point. This will show me how much fabric I need to tension in between, and I'll be doing that on the machine as I go along. If you feel a little bit less confident, then you can also tension the center point to make sure that you're not overstretched on the leg. You'll measure the leg elastic by wrapping it around your leg and finding your best fit. There's usually a guide in the pattern of how much, but the more you pin the elastic, the more you might pierce and break the fibres inside the elastic that make it stretchy. You put elastic on like this in 2 passes. So the first pass will be to attach the elastic, and then you fold it and encase the elastic inside. So make sure you've got a thread match for the back and the front. And you just need a little bit of the fabric showing. You don't want the elastic showing. You just need to be able to see a tiny little bit of your fabric. Then you definitely know your elastic will be completely encased on the second pass. You've got to be careful to stretch the elastic and not stretch any of this. If you stretch this, you'll get a wavy, wobbly edge. I'm getting a few skip stitches there, so I'm going to put a new stretch needle in my machine. You'll know you need one when you get a few missing out like this. The next step is to roll it over. You can see, look, my elastic is too close to the edge there, but here my elastic will be enclosed. On your second pass, you've got 2 choices. You can use the 3-step zigzag or a normal zigzag, depending on how confident you feel about the construction. And this time you're going to sew it from the right side. You want to match your stitch length and width with the size of your elastic. So I've got mine on 3.5 width because that will give me plenty of coverage over my elastic. As you sew, you're taking out the wrinkles by applying the same amount of pressure that you put the elastic on in the first instance. Don't overstretch this. That will also give you a wavy edge. Just let it relax to the point where the fabric is able to lie flat. Here's your elastic attached. There's quite a bit of tension in there because it's a child's pair, so I needed it to fit quite a slim leg. But there's lots of stretch left in it. And you can see where I could make improvements on my sewing. So here I didn't have the first pass in quite the correct position. Here I've got a little bit of extra fabric, so I could trim that off if it was uncomfortable. And here it's probably just about right. Takes a little bit of practice, but you want to make sure that both of your legs are the same. So I've marked my elastic the same length so that I don't get one more tensioned than another. For waistband elastic, you can use the same method that you used on the leg, where you put your elastic on the wrong side, 1 pass, turn over and zigzag stitch. That would all match. You can use a wider elastic, so you can add like a boxer short elastic and you can apply that flat with a zigzag. Or you could use a fold over elastic and completely enclose that raw edge with a fold over. If you're making waistband on something like yoga pants or workwear, then workout wear, then you might need a nice wide elastic that you don't put through a casing. You put the elastic on in a flat waistband style. Just because it was specific to this make, I'm just going to show you how to make little tubes, and they're useful if you're making swimwear or bikinis. So you might need them for a tie, you might be pulling them through a channel. In this case I've got them on the sides, but you might also have them as the tie around your body as well to hold bikini pieces in place. To make a really small tie on your overlocker, take a chain and the chain is the length of your tie. Lift up the foot, fold your fabric and place the chain inside the tube so that it runs down the centre. Fold your fabric in half. I've got a bit of spare fabric at the end just to get it going. Keep your chain under your finger here towards the fold and sew the raw edges. Next, take the chain that's threaded all the way through, and it just takes a little bit of time at the beginning to just start the process of pulling the tube inside out, and I'm pulling that chain that's running all the way down. Don't pull it too quickly or it will all bunch up like this. You just need to pull it gently, making sure that it turns in on itself. It means you can get a really skinny spaghetti strap pulling through the stretchy fabric. I've got black thread showing there, but you would be using an overlock thread that matches. I just wanted to show you how it works. So this is the Jali pattern. It's got sizes from children's up to adults. It's got different bikini bottom styles. It's got a really great size range, 27 different sizes. I've done this top and these bottoms. I've used a fold over elastic just because the person I'm making them for likes that as a comfort style, and the top here is in a sew along, which will be coming up soon. Here are the little ties that we made on the overlocker, but you can just pull them through with a tube turner if you don't have an overlocker. It's just a nice little technique for spaghetti straps. Our core range lycra is good for bikini tops and bottoms. You could have a full style There's a foiled version which makes a pretty glamorous bikini set there, and the plain matte finish that I've used today. Lycra is also good for workout wear, so you'd be making that wider waistband there to try and get good comfort, or you can mix a solid and a pattern print. You can use matte Lycra for loungewear or everyday leggings. These ones are in the matte finish. The Lycra can also be used for shapewear or bodysuits. This one has a ruffle which is really pretty. It's actually a swimsuit worn as a top and also a long sleeve bodysuit. Everyday leggings look absolutely superb here. That's a hologram Lycra. There is a faux leather Lycra as well, and it makes a really striking, really on-trend pair of leggings. If you're looking for dancewear, then Jarly is the pattern company you really want to search out. There's some fabulous designs there, all different shapes for a wide range of body sizes. Finally, for some real glamour, you could use Lycra for cosplay or evening wear, for using gathers and the drape of the fabric and not having something in negative ease. Here you'll be working with the slinkiness of the Lycra fabric. Hope you found that maker gallery a little bit inspirational. If you would like to know more about which patterns you can use Lycra for, then do keep your eyes peeled for Vicky's video where she will make some pattern suggestions for using Activewear. I normally wear something in the fabric that I'm talking about, but Activewear wasn't really something I wanted to sit here and sew in. So today I'm wearing the Fen dress from Fancy Tiger Crafts. It is a really easy fitting dress, good for me for sitting and working in and sewing. I've made a winter version, so this is in a flannel. I'll list this fabric below. And you just need a little bit more care when you're working with a larger gingham, that you try and keep some of your horizontal lines and vertical lines well balanced in your garment. It's one of my favourite winter dresses. If you would like to explore more fabric types, then take a look at the Minerva Fabric Guide. There's a couple of videos that support this, so you can have a more in-depth look and a chat about it. There's one with Vicky and there's one with me, and we both take you through what's inside the guide. The next section of the book is an index of all different fibre types. So if you understand what fibre your fabric is made out of, then you'll understand more about the characteristics of it and whether it will suit a particular project or not. The QR code is really handy because if you scan the QR code, then boiled wool will be filtered to your page. So if you think, oh, I really fancy making something with this, and I think I can do all of these things, or it's something I want to explore, it will filter it down so that there's only boiled wool in your search. I love the inspirational photography. It just gives you some ideas of what you can do with the fabric, and you could also go and check out that maker and see what other things they have made. So that is the Minerva Fabric Guide. If you've made anything, we would love to see it. It doesn't have to be this fabric in particular. We just love to see all of the products that people have made. Do make a free account with us, create a profile, share your makes there. You can take photographs, give a little description, describe any problems you had. You can say how well your pattern matched your fabric. All of those things are of great inspiration to our Minerva makers, and we really love to see what you have been making. You can also join the craft club over there where you will receive discounts and offers throughout the year. Thank you very much for watching, and do come back for more of the Fabric Masterclass. We'll be going through those 70 different base cloths so that you can see how they behave, how they sew up, and it will hopefully help you choose the right fabric for the right pattern. Thank you very much then. See you soon.